I've mentioned before that for years I couldn't listen to Trump talk because the sound of his voice actually made my skin crawl. But since I started doing political content on TikTok, I've been able to stomach him because there's a purpose to it. Sometimes that purpose is informing the public, and sometimes it's just mocking him. But either way, it's allowed me to detach from the speaker and his idiocy and focus on the content, which I've created this handy chart to illustrate for you. A couple of weeks ago, I finally had to turn off one of his speeches for the first time since I started doing this, and it's taken me until now to feel up to the task of listening to the rest and analyzing it. I've tried a few techniques to make his voice less painful to listen to, including bribing you with cute videos of my dog, auto-tuning him, dubbing fart noises over him, my favorite, and just reading his quotes myself. The dog videos have been by far the most popular, but I'm afraid if I give you a cute video every time Trump says something stupid, I'm going to run out of dog videos. I only have the one dog. This time I'm settling on a combination of vicious mockery and jokes, plus a dog video. If you stick around for the whole thing, you will see that he is very adorable, and most importantly, his nose is shaped like a heart. So, without further ado, let's talk about Trump's Thanksgiving call with the armed forces. Trump starts off by mentioning that he just found out, seconds before this started, that Sarah Beckstrom, the West Virginia National Guard member who was attacked in D.C., had passed away. Actually, that's not true. Because he's an unfeeling ghoul, the first thing he does is talk about how attractive all these military guys are and make an awkward joke.
I see you, a lot of great-looking faces. Everybody's on, right? If you are, wave. If you're not, just you can leave and go have turkey.
Literally 10 seconds after making this face, he starts talking about Sarah. So you can definitely tell he's feeling awful about it. But before he can even tell us what happened to her, he trots out one of his favorite lies, that there has been literally zero crime in D.C. since he sent the National Guard there.
Until yesterday, we literally had no incidents for many months. It was the safest place imaginable. And
just for fun, let's look at some D.C. crime stats. Right now, I'm going to scroll through just the violent crimes reported in the month of November. There are 201 incidents, so he's only off by a little over 200.
And this is a different kind of crime. This is a really bad crime.
He has such a way with words. Then he reenacts a little Monty Python for us.
She's just passed away. She's no longer with us. She's looking down at us right now.
Cease to be. It's expired and gone to meet its maker.
Her parents are with her.
Wait, are they gone too?
She was savagely attacked. She's dead. She's not with us.
It's a stiff.
He calls the attacker a monster and says, but we're not even going to talk about him, and then immediately starts talking about him, and specifically how he got into the country.
And I have a picture of a plane.
Cool. I have a picture of a Budweiser can in front of the Gateway Arch.
Just take a look at that plane. This is what we had under the Biden administration.
Look, I've also flown Frontier Airlines, and it's honestly worth it for the money you save. Not all of us have private jets. Then he goes into another favorite lie, that the governments of other countries are somehow gathering up all their criminals and lunatics and making a coordinated effort to send them into the US like we're some kind of modern-day prison colony. He segues directly into bragging about how he single-handedly rebuilt the military during his first term, another lie, and then it's time to introduce the other people on the call.
The 101st Airborne Division. You know, I've heard about that since I was a little boy. The Screaming Eagles.
If you've been watching Trump's speeches as his dementia progresses, you will notice that he loves military planes and pilots. He talks about them every chance he gets, and he positively sparkles when he's describing them, complete with hand gestures and sound effects.
The B-2 bombers were incredible. That is stealth. They flew in there with no moon, no light, no nothing. You see, much faster. Totally invisible. They were stealth. And then they said, skedaddle. And that plane went and they go, boom. And that thing just turned in its side. What machines they were.
It's like a little kid going on about their newest obsession, or more accurately, like a dementia-riddled old man going on about his oldest obsession. It would be charming if he weren't a shriveled raisin of hate who's putting our entire country at risk with his continued existence. Next, he attempts to pronounce a name he's currently reading for the first time.
Fort Huachuca, Arizona.
As someone who grew up in rural Wisconsin and went to high school in a town called Waukesha, this honestly makes me feel right at home. Introducing one person was hard work, so he takes a little break to do some more lies. This is another of his favorites, that we have had literally no illegal immigration in months. This is such a ridiculous claim that even he admits it doesn't make sense.
Actually said nobody came. Even I find that hard to believe, but they literally are saying nobody came in.
That's because it's false. This claim is a gross distortion of an actual fact, which is that 0 illegal immigrants have been released by Border Patrol inside our country. It used to be that if we caught someone coming in illegally, they were allowed to stay here until their case was processed. Now we're not doing that. The end result is we're spending tons of money sending people back, only for them to immediately try to cross again. It's a huge waste of taxpayer dollars, and it isn't making us any safer. Anyway, the point is, there are absolutely still illegal immigrants coming in. The only thing that's changed is that the ones we catch aren't being released inside the US. It's unclear if Trump knows he's lying or if he just doesn't understand what words mean. You know what he does understand, though? Handsome men.
Then let's see. There you are, handsome people. They're beautiful looking people. Thank you. Like Central Cast. I could put you in a movie right this second, and the three of you. And I think we'd have a top grossing movie. You don't have people like you in Hollywood. Is everybody Central Casting? It's like they're all handsome, tough guys. I don't know what's going on here.
He thanks these very handsome men for blowing up Venezuelan fishermen. Oh wait, I mean drug boats. Oh wait, I mean oil tankers. Well, whatever they were blowed up real good, and the president is very proud. Now he brings out a line he says in every single speech. A year ago, we were a dead country, and now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. Whatever the hell that means. Every time he repeats it, you can feel his hope that maybe this time it'll catch on.
Stop trying to make fetch happen.
He also says $20 trillion have been invested in our country. The number varies from speech to speech, anywhere from 17 trillion to 21 trillion. And he has never once said where any of that money is coming from, or what kind of investments he means, or how he accomplished it. We just have to trust him, I guess. For some reason, he says we should change the name of artificial intelligence.
I don't know the word. I've never liked the word artificial. I don't know what artificials are. I think they ought to change the name. I've always said that's a lousy name to have, artificial anything, but it's a big business.
He says the stock market is doing great, and we're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars. From tariffs, maybe? It's really unclear. What is clear is that he still has no idea how tariffs work.
And even better than the money we're taking in is the fact that nobody's attacking our companies and taking them out, stealing them like they've been for many years. Because if they do that, they have to pay a tariff as they make products and sell them into our country.
A tariff is a tax we pay on imported goods. None of it is paid by other countries. So he's bragging about taking our money. And he goes on to brag about how much he's going to steal from us next year.
Think of it, hundreds of billions. Next year it'll be $1 trillion or more.
He rambles for about another minute and a half about tariffs, and it's completely incoherent. Some of it's lies, some of it just doesn't make any sense. You know, standard Trump stuff. At this point, he's been going on for over 15 minutes, and I want to ask you a quick question. Without rewinding or looking at the video description, can you remember what this speech is supposed to be about? If you can't, that's okay. Trump doesn't remember either. But the answer is he's wishing the armed forces a happy Thanksgiving. I'm sure he'll get to that next.
With those beautiful B-2 bombers.
Whoops, never mind. He's got to talk about airplanes some more.
In the dark of night, it was total obliteration. Totally invisible. There was stealth. His commander said, skedaddle. And there wasn't a sputter from an engine. It was a flawless mission. I want to thank General Raisin Kane for that.
And then, handsome men.
And I gave them a medal, all of them. There were a lot of handsome people. They looked like Tom Cruise, actually. It was very good casting. But I like Tom Cruise, the last of our movie stars, probably.
Then, with classic Donald Trump grace and style, he invites questions.
Unlike Biden, he didn't take questions. But I take all the questions you want. You can ask me any damn question you want. Then we go and have a great Thanksgiving, because I don't know about you. You probably had your dinner already, but I didn't. And I know exactly what I'm going to have. Turkey. Okay? I believe it's turkey.
I love this clip so much. It's such a richly representative cross-section of Trump's narcissism. He starts with Trump's standard Biden bashing because he is still so butthurt that he lost 2020. He mentions Biden more than any president in history has ever mentioned their predecessor because he just cannot get over the fact that he lost. He's going to take that frustration to his grave, and I love that for him. Then he goes on to be dismissive of the scripted, sanitized questions he's about to receive, complains he hasn't had dinner yet, then proudly proclaims he's going to have turkey, before admitting he doesn't actually know what normal Americans usually eat on Thanksgiving. He's so happy he remembered, though.
Turkey. Okay, I believe it's turkey.
Next, we hear from a guy from Border Patrol who just tells Trump what a special boy he is, and Trump admits the only thing he heard is that the guy said Gulf of America. This guy never misses an opportunity to brag about stupid things he's done, so we get another favorite Trump lie, that it should be called the Gulf of America because we have 92% of the shoreline. He's been repeating this a couple times a week for almost a year now, and even the most casual glance at a map will show you it isn't true. I shouldn't even have to mention this because we should all know it's false, but there are people who believe this just because Trump says it so damn often. If this were a just world, reporters would laugh directly into Trump's face every time he says that number. Anyway, he brags about suing the Associated Press for continuing to use Gulf of Mexico because if there's one thing soldiers love in a commander, it's filing frivolous lawsuits because a big meanie hurt your feelings. Anyway, someone tries to remind the Border Patrol guy he was supposed to ask a question, and he says, "No thanks, I just wanted to suck Trump's," and puts someone else on who asks what team he'd bet on in the Army-Navy football game. This is the kind of goofy, feel-good question a decent president loves, because it gives them a chance to joke around and show a little of their human side. But Trump just tells the guy it's a terrible question and says he'd cheat, which might be one of the most honest things Trump has ever said. The next speaker is from the Marines, and he brags a little about the various missions they've been doing, and Trump has to show that he's the best and smartest, as always.
I knew every move and every single thing you said. I know exactly what you did and who did it, and I want to just thank you. You were amazing.
Masterful bluff, sir. Nobody suspected a thing. This guy was also just here for the presidential sucking, so now we go on to the Navy. This guy spends a little while bragging, and I think Trump is getting irritated that other people are doing his shtick because he tries to move on to questions. Another guy mentions the First Lady, and Trump uses that as another opportunity to talk about hot men.
And she said those people are in good shape. They're in very good shape.
This guy asks if Trump would wish his daughter a happy birthday.
So I was wondering if I could get a happy birthday, Catherine, from you, sir.
And her first name is?
Well, it's Betty, but I want you to say happy birthday, Catherine. We don't like her very much. Next up is the Air Force, so you know Trump is listening. They talk airplanes for a little while, and then we get a question from the first person all night who understood the assignment. She asks this question.
My question for you today is, what is the most memorable obstacle or hardship that you've encountered in your life, and how did this shape you to be the leader you are today?
This would be a great question if it were being aimed at someone who could potentially be mistaken for a leader by a blind lemming. Sure, any politician would probably give you bullshit, but it would at least be bullshit that sounded good and maybe said something about the value of perseverance and believing in yourself. But she's directing the question at a raging narcissist with dementia who, even at the top of his mental game, had the emotional maturity of a hungry toddler at 9 p.m. And this is the point where I began my rage death spiral. It wasn't just that his answer was bad. It wasn't just that he's got absolutely zero sense of modesty or decorum, or even the tiniest sliver of introspection, the faintest possible whisper of self-awareness. This is all awful and embarrassing, of course, but it's standard fare. It's expected. It's anticipated, even. What got to me here was the absurdity of the facade. After 10 years of exposure to this man, we are still going through the motions of treating him not only like a human being with real human emotions, but like a president, a leader, a role model. He has shown us at every opportunity who and what he is, and yet we continue this ridiculous farce, asking him thoughtful and relevant questions as if he will ever, even once, deign to give us a satisfactory answer. Whatever this person's reason was for enlisting, she is serving this country. She is risking her life for the purpose of protecting our people and our way of life. And whether or not you support the aims of the military, that dedication to a purpose should be respected. This young woman was given the opportunity to ask a question of the man holding the highest office in the country. The person who is ostensibly guiding and enacting the vision of the organization she has dedicated her life to. And she asks him a somewhat naive but thoughtful and genuine question. And the bare minimum we can expect from a president here is to spend a few fleeting seconds reflecting on past experiences and giving her an answer that, even if it lacks sincerity, can give her something to think about and apply to her own life. Something that can inspire her and lift her when she experiences hardship. That's what she deserves. Instead, she gets a huge, steaming turd of self-serving nonsense. A pile of withered word salad with slugs in it. She gets a narcissistic brush-off of epic proportions. And no, I was not surprised, but damn it, she deserves better. We all do. Trump's response to what is the greatest hardship you've experienced is, and this should be no surprise to anyone who has listened to any of his speeches this term, the weaponization of government by the Biden administration against him. He doesn't elaborate on what he means by that, but I can only assume he means the attempts to prosecute him for all the crimes he did, which is not weaponization of the government, it's just application of the legal system in the manner in which it is meant to be applied. He then claims he won by a lot all 3 times he ran for president, which is 2 exaggerations and a lie. He says the weaponization of the government was a disgrace to our nation. And then he says this.
You know, today I'm in Florida, but generally I'm in the White House, I'm in the Oval Office, so I look around and say, oh, well, couldn't have been that bad, but it was. It was a disgrace to our nation, and it should never be allowed to happen again, and it's being looked at very strongly.
If you run this through a word salad to English translator, you get, since I'm currently the president, sitting in my private office in a luxury resort, surrounded by gold leaf and sycophants, you might think this wasn't actually much of a hardship. But it really was. And they were super mean, and I'm going to sue them all because they were so mean to me. He then says that it's a very interesting question that nobody's ever asked him before, which I find very hard to believe. Then he restates how awful it was. Then he complains he was fighting for her and the common citizen, not just himself, which is completely laughable. And then he finishes up with this.
We fought and we won, but they're bad people. So thank you. That's a great question.
As always, he is a paragon of eloquence and wit. Next, someone asks him to make a racist gesture, which he's glad to do.
I love it. Chop.
And then he complains that he can't be as racist as he wants to be anymore. We move on to a representative from the Space Force who tells him what they've been doing this year, mainly wasting taxpayer money, and gives Trump an opportunity to ramble about how great his special project is and how mean Biden was for wanting to terminate it. The Space Force guy's question is about Trump's vision for the Space Force and how he expects this branch of the military to grow. The response is just classic Trump. He says growth will be unlimited, but doesn't say anything at all about what they might be doing because he truly does not know. He just wants everyone to know that all his stuff is biggest and best and fastest, and I swear it makes me want to. Finally, we have the Coast Guard, and Trump responds to their summary by bragging about how he got them the biggest, shiniest boats. He mentions that he personally redesigned the hulls to make them look cooler. And if that's actually true, I would seriously be looking into getting a job on land ASAP. He also says this.
The big storms, the big water storms, as they call them.
Nobody calls them that. Anyway, he rambles for 2 full minutes about the big pretty boats and then asks for the question, which is another ridiculous softball. What's your golf handicap, really? This is another 2-minute ramble in which he somehow manages to complain about Biden because he just cannot handle that he lost that election. He claims his handicap is, quote, right around scratch or better. He also says he's won 38 club championships legitimately, which is a wild thing to have to qualify. I have never in my life heard an athlete specify how many of their wins were legitimate. But then again, I don't golf with idiot con artists, so maybe I'm just not immersed in the right culture. So this concludes the scripted portion of the call, and it's time for questions from the press, which is honestly a pretty weird thing to do if you think about it. This isn't a press conference. He's just calling the troops to wish them a happy Thanksgiving. But Trump doesn't want to do anything if he can't be the center of attention. So we have press questions at the end of every damn thing he does. And this is one of those rare occasions where you see him realize it was probably not a good idea, given recent events. And while it happens, my rage spiral continues. After spouting absolute nonsense for 40 minutes, Trump may have forgotten that this event opened with an announcement that a National Guardsman lost her life, because every question is, predictably, about the shooting in Washington, D.C., and he is kind of blindsided by it. The first reporter points out that the suspect worked with the CIA for years, and that he was thoroughly vetted before he came in. Trump interrupts to say, quote, "He went cuckoo. I mean, he went nuts." He doesn't actually have anything coherent to say about this, so he goes back to his visual aid.
They're standing on top of each other, and that's an airplane.
That's a beer can. The reporter presses him on why he's blaming Biden when his administration is responsible, which is an excellent question she'll almost certainly be punished for. And this is Trump's response.
Are you stupid? Are you a stupid person?
I know a lot of you don't remember what presidents were like in the before times, but as a certified old person, let me tell you, it is absolutely buck wild to hear a president using this kind of language. In any sane world, this would make his supporters come to their senses, realize they've been duped, and demand his removal from office. This is the guy who's responsible for negotiating with countries that have the capacity to bomb us. And his response to a question he doesn't have an answer to is, "Are you a stupid person?" By any metric, this man is grossly unqualified for office, and every single goddamn thing he says only proves that point more. But that wasn't enough to break me. Not yet, but we're close. The next question is whether he's spoken with the victims' families. His answer is yes, but actually no. His people have spoken to the families, but he hasn't yet, because it would be improper to talk to them immediately when they just lost their daughter. He doesn't give a shit. We all know he doesn't give a shit. Any call he has ever made to a grieving family has been against his will, and you can bet your ass it was full of self-aggrandizing lies and idiocy, just like everything else he's ever said. The reporter goes on to ask if Trump is going to go to Sarah's funeral, and here we have it, folks. This is the point where I'm full up on bullshit and just can't take so much as another wet fart from his puckered asshole of a mouth. When asked if he plans to attend the funeral of the woman whose death he announced at the beginning of this call, a woman who died as a direct result of his narcissistic posturing, his pathological need to show everyone what a big, strong, tough man he is, by sending the National Guard to a place where they were neither needed nor wanted, he says this.
I haven't thought about it yet, but it certainly is something I could conceive of. I love West Virginia. You know, I won West Virginia by one of the biggest margins of any president anywhere.
This is not about you. Whether or not the people of West Virginia voted for you does not matter. The decision about whether or not you are going to attend the funeral of a woman your actions led to the death of should not hinge on whether or not you enjoy visiting that part of the country. And it sure as hell shouldn't be affected in any way whatsoever by who the people in that area voted for. We're not talking about a weekend fucking getaway here. This is an event honoring the life and death of a young woman, a human being with hopes and dreams and a future ahead of her, whose blood is on your tiny bruised hands. Literally, the only factor in your decision about whether to come should be whether or not the grieving family wants you there. You disgusting, self-obsessed, careless, dishonest, malicious, abusive worm. So yeah, that was the point where I had to stop the video and take a 2-week break before I watched the rest. As it turns out, I'd almost made it through. There are only 4 minutes of questions after this because Trump cuts the Q&A session short when he realizes he's only going to get more questions about what happened in DC. But in that 4 minutes, he manages to say that 1, he does not intend to do anything to improve safety for the National Guard. 2, again, falsely claims there's no crime in DC. 3, that the suspect probably shot the guardsman because he was upset he, quote, couldn't practice crime. 4, again, look at this picture of an airplane. 5, Somalians are taking over Minnesota. 6, once again falsely claims that none of the Afghan refugees were vetted. 7, Somalia is ripping us off. 8, All Ilhan Omar ever does is complain about our country and our constitution. And 9, Somalia isn't even a country. Then, thank God, the video finally ends. As a parent, I can only imagine the grief Sarah Beckstrom's parents are feeling in the aftermath of this shooting. My daughter is 16. In less than 2 years, if she wanted to, she could sign her life away to the military and meet the same fate. And if that were to happen and our president responded like this, my rage would be indescribable. I would love to have some eloquent superlatives to put here, but even trying to imagine this situation is so overwhelming that my higher functions shut down to conserve power for righteous anger. Those people lost their daughter because of him, and he does not care enough to even pretend to care. And it's things like this that really make me wonder about the Trump cult. His diehard supporters are more likely than average to be in the military or have family who are. And this is far from the first time he's been openly disrespectful toward the military. I understand that these people don't see queer people or brown people as humans, but when Trump's obvious disdain for everyone who isn't filthy rich and kissing his ass shows through, and it's clear that he doesn't care about the white good old boys either, I find it hard to understand how their cognitive dissonance doesn't snap like a twig under the strain. As much as I try to understand the psychology behind it, I just can't make it make sense. And that's frustrating because I want to work toward a better future. I want to counter the hateful narrative Republicans are peddling with activism and education. But I don't know how to do that when I can't understand the foundation this whole mess is built on. If you tell me you support the guy because he's nice to you and that's all you care about, I don't empathize, but I can understand it. And I can try to figure out how to fight it. But that's what's so baffling, because ultimately, he doesn't like you. He makes that clear in everything he says and does. Are people really so bad at reading social cues that they don't pick up on this? Or is it, as many have said, that the only thing they care about is that he hates the same people they do? But that confuses me too, because the only reason those things overlap is that Trump hates everyone. The only person in the whole entire world that Trump loves is himself, and even that is debatable. I don't really have a conclusion for this one. In summary, I'm confused and angry, but that's pretty much been my default state since 2016. If you have any theories, let me know in the comments. If you made it this far and didn't just skip ahead to see the dog, I appreciate you. And if you did skip ahead, I don't like it, but I get it. You've got to preserve your sanity. Anyway, enjoy the dog.